In the 70s, I was scared into the water by a vicious dog at the village entrance. When my life hung by a thread, it was Boshin who jumped in and saved me. For a time, gossip about us spread through the village, and his fiancée called off their engagement because of it, with no other choice. Boshin gritted his teeth and married me. After marriage, he resented me for breaking up him and Kira Gu, and never treated me kindly. Later, he even found a love letter I had written to him many years ago in my luggage. This further convinced him that I had been scheming all along, and even my falling into the water was a deliberate ploy against him, to get back at me, without my knowledge. He used his position as my husband to give the job that should have been mine to Kira Gu. She became a private school teacher, escorted by Boshin, enjoying a glamorous journey, and eventually became a professor. I, on the other hand, worked in the most ordinary grassroots position, living out my life in mediocrity. Over the years, I watched coldly as my husband treated another woman with kindness, not only finding her a job but also paying for her education. When she was cold, he added clothes for her. When she cried, he wiped her tears. After the heartache turned numb, I suddenly began to regret marrying Boshin. I've fantasized countless times about how different my life might have been if I had refused his marriage proposal back then. Late at night, as I once again fell asleep with tears streaming down my face, filled with resentment, when I opened my eyes again, I had actually returned to the moment when I fell into the water years ago. Willa, grab my hand quickly. The girl's sharp voice rang in my ears. I snapped back to reality. The weightlessness of falling down the hospital stairs transforming into the sinking sensation of drowning. Through the splashing water, I saw my childhood friend Jiyu Xiaoqin anxiously reaching out to me. Yet, she was still several steps away from the shore. That distance made it utterly impossible for me to touch her fingertips. I'll go get someone to save you. Hold on. She scrambled to her feet in a panic and ran toward the distance, where a field stretched out with several villagers busy at work. Only then did I realize I had actually been reborn back to the 1970s, before I had even married Shenbo. That day, Jiyu Xiaoqin and I went out to do laundry when a stray dog, appearing out of nowhere, started barking fiercely at me and even attempted to bite me. Terrified, I panicked and dodged, but in the chaos, an unseen force pushed me into the water. In my past life, Jiyu Xiaoqin had also cried out for help to the people in the fields, just as she is doing now, but among that crowd, apart from the elderly, only Boshin knew how to swim. He rushed to the riverbank and, seeing me choking and suffocating in the water, jumped in without hesitation to save me. This was originally an act of kindness, but no one could have anticipated that this decision would entangle us endlessly, making us bitter lovers for a lifetime. After being rescued by Boshin in my previous life, I used all my savings to buy him a city-style watch as a token of gratitude. Not long after, Jiyu Xiaoqin suddenly came to inform me, Willa, it's terrible. The village is saying you and Boshin are involved in an improper relationship. Hearing this news felt like being struck by lightning. In this era, open relationships weren't fully accepted yet, and conservative, feudalistic views still persisted in backward areas. Being accused of moral misconduct was extremely serious, not to mention that Boshin already had a fiancé. Passers-by in the village would point at me and cast strange glances my way. Some claimed with certainty that they had seen me by the riverbank, kissing Boshin mouth to mouth and engaging in inappropriate embraces. Others even said that I hadn't fallen into the water by accident at all, but was caught in the act of indecency with Boshin in broad daylight, only slipping into the river during our disgraceful behavior, and the watch I had given him became the so-called evidence of these incidents. The rumors grew wilder and wilder, the gossip nearly drowning me. Back then, I was only around 20 years old, inexperienced and naive. Faced with such a situation, I was utterly panicked, only able to cry with reddened eyes. Boshin wasn't faring much better either. It said that his fiancée, Kira Gu, brought her parents to his home to break off the engagement, causing quite a stir. Boshin and Kira Gu were classmates who were deeply in love, on the verge of marriage, when this unexpected turn of events occurred. Despite the risk of being accused of harassment, he desperately tried to salvage the relationship for a long time. But Kira Gu's resolve to end the engagement was as firm as a rock. No matter how much we clarify, very few people believe us. Public opinion can melt metal. Faced with these rumors, we felt like we were being fried in a pan of oil. During that time, I would get up every night to pack my belongings, crying as I thought, at worst, I'll just leave this place and find somewhere deserted to start over. But before long, Boshan actually came to my door with betrothal gifts. After the turmoil of these past days, the youthful vigor in him had vanished, and his handsome features were tinged with a faint weariness. The moment he saw me, he said, "Willa G. Since things have come to this, why don't I marry you?" He asked me, "Will you marry me?" Would I be willing? For decades afterward, I would regret giving the wrong answer that day. Perhaps if I had refused him back then, my life wouldn't have been so bitter. I wouldn't have toiled in the fields for years, only to return to the city and watch helplessly as someone else took my job. It was clear that we were married, yet my husband was devoted to protecting another woman. Leaving me alone in an empty room, I repeatedly overestimated myself by comparing myself to Kira Gu, only to withdraw in shame each time. Among the three of us, it was clearly the two of us who had the marriage certificate, yet I felt more like the third wheel. We argued, I cried, I made a scene. But in the end, what defeated me was nothing but the disgust in Boshan's eyes. He said, "You know perfectly well how our marriage came to be. The person I've wronged the most in this life is Chanru. This is what we owe her." I was devastated. What do I owe her? Wasn't it her who insisted on breaking off the engagement? Wasn't it you, Boshan, who came to my doorstep with betrothal gifts to marry me, from beginning to end? I never intended to ruin your relationship. Yet, because of that love letter I never even sent, he sentenced me to a fate worse than death, leaving me no chance to turn things around. Leaving me to struggle alone in this loveless marriage for all these years, watching him turn away time and again, his heartless retreating figure left me choking back sobs. Boshan, I truly wish I had never met you in this lifetime. His departing footsteps suddenly halted, though I couldn't see the expression on his face, yet I heard him speak with near indifference. If possible, I too wish I hadn't pulled you from the river that day. At this very moment, I finally believed that what Boshan said wasn't just words spoken in anger. While I was struggling in the water, Jiu Xiaoqin pulled Boshan towards me. "Brother Shan, hurry, Willa Ji fell into the water. Go save her." In my past life, Boshan didn't hesitate for a second before taking off his clothes and diving in, terrified that even a moment's delay might put me in danger. But at this moment, he hesitated, watching me floundering in the water. His gaze was profound. Men and women should maintain propriety. This might be inappropriate. Perhaps we should find a female who can swim. Jiu Xiaoqin was so anxious she could barely stand still. Oh dear, at this point we shouldn't worry about such trivialities. Saving lives is what matters. Are you just going to stand by and watch her drown? She dragged Boshan towards the riverbank, her voice booming like a loudspeaker. This commotion naturally drew even more people over. As more and more people approached, Boshan's expression grew even darker. His brows were furrowed so tightly they could crush a fly. He brushed off Jiu Xiaoqin's hand, strongly resisting her attempt to pull him toward the rescue. I said it's not appropriate, and that's final. I'll go find a woman who can swim to save her. With that, he quickly ran off, leaving Jiu Xiaoqin standing there dumbfounded. She was so frantic that she was jumping up and down. Who can swim? Willa Ji is about to drown. Someone save her. Yet, no one responded. After hearing the whole thing, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. It seems Boshan has also been reborn. It turns out what he said wasn't just angry words. He genuinely wished for my death. So I would no longer be an obstacle to his marriage with Kira Jiu. A wave of sorrow surged within me. Under Jiu Xiaoqin's astonished gaze, I slowly swam back to the shore, dripping wet. I climbed out from the riverbank and walked home calmly. Jiu Xiaoqin ran over, her eyes wide with astonishment. Willa, you can actually swim. How come I never knew that before? The discomfort in my body left me with no energy to explain in detail. I just gave a perfunctory response and hurried back home as quickly as possible. On the way home, I happened to run into Boshan, who had turned back after leaving. He walked hurriedly, accompanied by a robust woman. The woman kept chattering non-stop, scolding him. A drowning person can't wait. It's been so long, that person probably won't make it. Facing my mocking gaze, Boshan froze on the spot. He stared at me in a daze. Yes, a drowning person can't wait. In those few minutes he delayed. If I was still the Willa G from my past life who couldn't swim, I would have drowned by now. I walked past them without saying a word. Boshan, fortunately you didn't save me this time, because I feel the same. I don't want to have the slightest connection with you anymore. Thank heavens for giving me the chance to set things right. Upon returning home, I quickly took a shower and changed out of my soaked clothes. The first thing I needed to do immediately was to find that love letter I had written in a moment of impulse. Back in the day, when our group was sent to the countryside, I spotted Boshan standing out from the crowd at first glance. He had a handsome face and a gentle demeanor, never complaining or being vague in his work, and always eager to help anyone in need. Inevitably, I secretly developed feelings for him. At that time, I didn't know he had a fiancé. When I found out later, I was heartbroken for a while, but eventually suppressed these feelings. But I never expected that this love letter, written in a moment of folly, would later become the evidence he used to convict me. Boshan repeatedly used this love letter to interrogate me. He was convinced that I had deliberately schemed to get close to him, using the river incident to tarnish our relationship. He accused me of being shameless, using my own purity as a woman to set him up, no matter how I explained. He wouldn't listen. I wanted to say it was just an accident. I wanted to say I was truly drowning at that moment. Who would joke about their own life? Yet, all my explanations felt feeble and powerless. At this moment, without hesitation, I threw that love letter into the fire basin in the yard. Since all of this is wrong, it shouldn't exist in this world anymore. What are you doing? Boshan strode over quickly, and the moment he saw what I had burned, his pupils dilated in shock. Willa G. Are you crazy? How could you burn the love letters you wrote to me? I looked at him expressionlessly. Why not? If I remember correctly, this seems to be my thing. Right, how to deal with it is my freedom, he blurted out, but you gave it to me. Boshan's words came to an abrupt halt. He took a deep breath to calm himself. Then, in the familiar tone of reproach, he questioned me. Willa G, you've also been reborn, haven't you? Otherwise, you wouldn't be treating me like this. You were indeed lying to me in your past life. You could swim, yet you pretended all these years, deliberately making me save you, which led to my broken engagement with Chanru. I never expected that, without even being married, he could still speak to me with such shameless arrogance. Boshan, what gives you the right to interrogate me? In this lifetime, it seems we have no connection whatsoever. Besides, can you go a single day without falsely accusing me? In my past life, I nearly drowned and had to spend a week in the city hospital on an 4-drip. No one is foolish enough to gamble with their own life. What? Do you think your charm is so great that I'd risk my life just to bet on whether you'd save a stranger like me? I met his trembling gaze and said, the reason I learned to swim now is because, during the decades I was married to you, I regretted every single day why I didn't know how to swim back then. If I could have climbed out on my own, would I have given you the chance to torment me later? Probably didn't expect me to say such heartless words. He froze. This was something he had never considered, because in our past life, no matter how I explained, he never believed me. He was convinced that my falling into the water was a deliberate ploy to lure him into saving me, that I intentionally ruined his reputation to achieve my goal of marrying him. So he hated me, resented me, and in our marriage, he hurt me with needles that wouldn't kill but could make a person bleed profusely. Only when I truly climbed out of the water by myself did he finally have no choice but to believe what I had said. I truly would rather have never known him than let him save me again. The young man's face was ashen. He seemed barely able to stand, yet he still managed to say whatever you want. But in this life, don't ruin my relationship with Chanru again. We will get married and correct the mistakes of the past life. After speaking, he stared at my face as if waiting for something. Perhaps he was waiting for me to break down, wanting to see me angry or jealous, but I didn't give him the satisfaction. I simply smiled and wished him well. Is that so? Then I wish you a lifetime of happiness and eternal love. Late at night, by the light of a kerosene lamp, I looked at the approval letter for educated youth to go to the countryside spread out on the table. It resembled a certificate of commendation. encouraging us to heed the call and go to the countryside to contribute. Through it, I saw glimpses of my past life. I spent half my lifetime in a mediocre job, busy yet numb. Every day is busy, but the heart feels empty. As someone who has loved reading since childhood, I find no satisfaction in my work. Once, I also thought about furthering my education. I want to take the postgraduate entrance exam, to reach a higher level, but every time I pick up a book, Boshan mocks me, laughing at my overreach, even suggesting that my desire to take the postgraduate entrance exam is just to compete with Kira Gu, because by then, she had already been admitted to a top-tier university in the country. Sometimes, I can't even see myself clearly, whether my desire to study is truly for my own sake or, as Boshan says, just for comparison. What also trips me up are the trivial matters at home. Boshan's mother was exceptionally difficult to deal with my father-in-law hospitalized all year round. She took care of him personally. After I married into the family, she seemed to have finally found a scapegoat, constantly summoning me to the hospital to tend to my father-in-law while she went off to play cards and enjoy herself. When I finally had a day off and wanted to read at home, she would wail and accuse me of being unfilial, claiming I was making excuses to avoid caring for my father-in-law. At the time, I was trying to mend my relationship with Boshan and feared he would misunderstand me, so I resigned myself to going back to the hospital to clean up after my father-in-law. Eventually, my time became so squeezed that I could only manage to study and read at work, until I collapsed at work from overexhaustion. I woke up in the hospital to find a crowd of relatives had arrived, not to check on me, but to lecture me on behalf of Boshan and my mother-in-law. They said I didn't know how good I had it, that I was crazy for wanting to take the postgraduate entrance exams instead of appreciating the comfortable life I already had. They said I should be Boshan's virtuous wife, taking care of everything at home for him. He was in the midst of career advancement, and once he got promoted, what couldn't I have? Why would I still need to pursue a postgraduate degree? And at that time, I was actually swayed by their words, one after another, and foolishly gave up the idea of continuing my studies, willingly helping him take care of the household. I really don't know what kind of spell I was under in my past life. Looking back now, I realize how utterly foolish I was. Some men don't feel grateful when women give up their careers to become virtuous homemakers, and may even come to disdain their lackluster appearance later on. Yet most women remain confined to domestic roles, foolishly sacrificing their right to pursue a better life just for the sake of being called a good woman. In my past life, I was exactly like that. Boshan always accused me of being jealous of Kira Gu. Yes, I was indeed jealous of her, not because she received more favor from Boshan, but because she could remain unshackled by family constraints, pursue her ideals throughout her life, and ultimately attain the position she had long admired. In the silent depths of the night, as I reflected on the regrets of my past life, I felt a surge of emotion boiling within my heart. Since heaven has granted me a second chance, I will not let myself down again. The next day, I went to see the village chief. After hearing my intentions, the village chief looked surprised. "Xiaoji, you're saying you want to switch villages for development?" I nodded. "Is it possible, village chief? I've already made an enemy of Boshan. I know he'll achieve great things in the future, and with his memories from his past life this time, he'll only rise to prominence even faster. I want to stay far away from him to avoid him making things difficult for me out of displeasure once he becomes successful." The village chief scratched his head awkwardly. I've never dealt with something like this before. I'm afraid I'll have to apply to the higher-ups. Why don't you go back and wait for news? I'll notify you immediately once there's a result." I nodded slightly with disappointment. In truth, I had already anticipated the outcome. After all, young people were sent to the countryside based on assignments, following the organization's arrangements. Cases like mine, wanting to change locations, were probably rare. Under the scorching sun, I continued working in the fields. When I ran into Boshan, I treated him as if he were air. I walked past him without even a sideways glance. Several times, I saw him open his mouth as if to say something to me, but upon meeting my indifferent gaze, he swallowed his words. Jiu Xiaoqin came to my side, her neck glistening with sweat from the sun, clicking her tongue at something in the distance. "Willa, Kira Jiu is so lucky. Why don't I have a fiancé like Boshin? Following her gaze, I saw many girls in the field staring at Kira Ji with envious eyes. It was Kira Ji working when Boshin came to see her, bringing chilled mung bean soup. He tenderly took over all her tasks, letting the woman sit and rest on a nearby rock. During the break, Boshin took out a handkerchief to wipe Kira Gu's sweat. The handsome man and beautiful woman made everyone around them envious. Perhaps it was my imagination, but while being gentle and attentive to Kira Ji, his gaze seemed to drift towards me now and then. I sneered, they thought it was enviable. But all I felt was disgust, because that mung bean soup was something I taught him to make in my past life. In the following days, I put my determination to stay away from Boshin into action. He might have thought I was playing hard to get, but only I knew the truth. I truly didn't want to repeat the same mistakes. Even if in my past life I genuinely liked Boshin, those sincere feelings had been trampled to nothing by that cold marriage. What I didn't expect was, I didn't go looking for trouble. But trouble came looking for me. That morning, I was still in the midst of a dream, in a dazed state. The door was banged with earth-shaking force. The man's voice was filled with rage. Willa G, get out here. I hurriedly threw on my coat and opened the door, only to see Boshin's face contorted with fury. His eyes were dark and gloomy, tinged with a hint of hatred, as if he wished he could tear me apart with his teeth. He rudely grabbed my wrist and strode towards the broadcasting station. I winced in pain from his rough pull, gritting my teeth and cursing. Boshin, what the hell is wrong with you? Let go of me. Let go now. He turned a deaf ear, as if afraid I might break free, tightening his grip on my wrist until it felt like my hand might snap. Tears fell unknowingly, and a sense of humiliation welled up in my heart. Only when he took me to the broadcasting station did I realize Boshin's intention. Over there, a dense crowd had gathered. Among them were the village chief, the villagers, and Kira Ji. She stood in the crowd, her delicate figure swaying like a fragile willow in the wind, accompanied by her soft sobs, making her all the more pitiable. Boshin hurriedly stepped forward, took Kira Gu's hand, and said, Kira, I've brought Willa G here. Hear her explanation yourself. I really didn't jump into the river to save her that day. Kira Ji turned away, ignoring him, her shoulders still trembling. The village chief watched her, her face streaked with tears like a rain-soaked pear blossom, and could only sigh helplessly. He cleared his throat. Comrade Gu, if you have any grievances, speak up. We'll stand up for you. Only then did she speak. Village chief, I have only one request. I want to cancel my engagement with Boshin. The man's eyes turned red upon hearing this. He shouted hoarsely, Why, Shiru, are you rejecting me again in this lifetime? He grabbed Kira Ji by the shoulders, insisting on getting an answer. Kira Ji said with grievance, That day when Willa G fell into the water, Jiu Xiaoqin said she saw you jump into the river to save her. You even gave her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. You held each other, skin against skin. Where does that leave me, your fiancé? I can't bear this humiliation. I want to break off the engagement. My gaze turned to Jiu Xiaoqin in the crowd. She avoided eye contact, not daring to look at me. Boshin explained, I didn't save her, she swam up on her own. As for the artificial respiration, that's even more absurd. The girl broke free from his embrace, but so many people saw it. Yet when they actually questioned the villagers about who had witnessed it, they all denied it, claiming they had only heard it secondhand from others. The only eyewitness that day was Jiu Xiaoqin, who saw the entire incident, yet she was the one spreading rumors everywhere. I didn't even have time to settle accounts with her before Boshin dragged me forward again. Willa G, tell me how you got out of the water that day. Don't lie, or I'll make you regret it. Watching him act so aggressively just to distance himself from me, I became even more certain at that moment. I truly didn't love him anymore. In fact, I felt disgusted. I replied calmly, I know how to swim. Why would I need him to save me? You're lying. Xiaoqin said you can't swim at all and never dare to enter the river. Comrade G, since you've stolen someone else's fiancé, you should have the courage to take responsibility. Kira Jiu glared at me, her pitiful appearance winning her even more sympathy. I immediately felt the scornful gazes. These people once again saw me as someone with improper conduct, a seductress who lured away another's fiancé. Looking at the river not far away, I got an idea and said to the crowd, "Everyone, follow me." Without hesitation, I jumped into the water in front of everyone. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Until the ripples on the surface ceased, someone gasped in horror, "Oh my God, could she have drowned?" On the shore, Boshin clenched his fists, his breath faltering for a moment. After a while, I finally surfaced from the water and skillfully swam to the shore. At this moment, my clothes were soaked again, my hair clung to my face, and I looked utterly disheveled. I said coldly, "Do you believe me now? I can swim. I didn't need him to save me. And I would never stoop so low as to risk my life just to seduce a man." Those of you who believed the rumors are utterly ridiculous. No one dared to question me further. Many blushed with shame for having doubted me earlier. The village chief shouted a couple of times, "It's all a misunderstanding. Everyone disperse. Get back to work." At night, taking advantage of the darkness, Jiyu Xiaoqin sneaked out of her house. She didn't notice that I quietly followed behind her. When we reached a secluded spot, I heard her speak in a voice full of grievance. "Sis, I really didn't lie to you. Willa Ji couldn't swim before. Who knew she managed to climb out that day, and in the darkness?" The person she met up with turned out to be Kira Jiyu. Jiyu Xiaoqin was a local. When I first arrived, I heard her mention that her uncle from out of town had a daughter who was studying at a university in the city. She was beautiful and the pride of the whole family. Turns out they were cousins. How well they'd hidden it. Her pretty face flushed with anger as she berated Jiyu Xiaoqin harshly. "You idiot, what kind of rotten idea was that? Now look, my engagement with Boshin can't be called off. And when Hua is still waiting to marry me, what am I supposed to do now?" My heart stirred at this. Xie Wenhua, in my past life, Kira Jiyu had married him. Back then, Xie Wenhua was the leader of the educated youth group, from a wealthy family sent here to gain experience. In their previous lives, Kira Jiyu and Xie Wenhua clearly had no connection, yet she hastily married him just 2 months after calling off her engagement with Boshin. Looking back now, it was all premeditated. Even the vicious dog from that past life was arranged by Kira Jiyu and her accomplices, while Jiyu Xiaoqin was responsible for luring Boshin to save me, followed by spreading rumors. If nothing had gone wrong, events should have unfolded as they did in the past. She would have used this as an excuse to break off the engagement with Boshin and then marry into the prestigious Xie family. I gritted my teeth in secret, wishing I could rush over and slap her twice across the face. Back then, Boshin was just a poor young man sent to the countryside for labor, with an uncertain future. Yet, years later, he rose to become a department head, flourishing in his official career, while Xie Wenhua's family fell into decline after being reported. Not long after Boshin became successful, Kira Jiyu divorced Xie Wenhua, and then she started hanging around the Shen family every other day under the pretense of reminiscing about old times. She tearfully complained that Xie Wenhua treated her poorly, that her in-laws tormented her and never showed her kindness, and that she endured endless grievances in the Xie family. It wasn't until they went bankrupt that she finally got the chance to leave, promising to divorce without taking a single penny. She said that in this city, Boshin was the only acquaintance she had left. Later, with her fragile demeanor, she managed to charm Boshin into arranging a university job for her, funding her further education, and using his connections and resources to pave the way for her. And so, Kira Jiyu played Boshin like a fiddle, completely unaware that she had once kicked him aside in disgust. My hands in the darkness clenched and unclenched, my expression shifting from anger to a mocking smile. I won't tell Boshin. Let him remain in the dark and experience the feeling of being toyed with by the one he loves once again. When he finally discovers the truth, the scene will surely be quite entertaining. I know Kira Jiyu can't wait much longer, because in my previous life, around this time, Xie Wenhua was soon to be transferred, rising from deputy head of the production team all the way to deputy workshop director, with such a bright future ahead. It's no wonder Kira Jiyu couldn't contain her impatience, eager to marry him quickly and live a prosperous life. But what I didn't expect was that I still underestimated Kira Gu's audacity. Who would have thought that if she couldn't ruin someone else's innocence, she would take the desperate step of ruining her own? As the rooster crowed at dawn, Jiyu Xiaoqin hurriedly knocked on my door, pulling me along and saying, "Something terrible has happened. Come with me to see." Baffled, I followed her and asked, "What happened?" Team leader Xie was drinking and discussing matters with a few directors yesterday. On his way back, he took a wrong turn and accidentally entered the wrong house. This morning, he was found sleeping in the same room as Kira Jiyu. Before I could fully digest this information, I arrived at Kira Gu's residence only to find a crowd gathered, even larger than the one at the broadcasting station that day. At that moment, Xie Wenhua was frantically explaining to the crowd, "It was my fault for drinking too much. My place is just too close to Comrade Gu's, and it was so dark I couldn't see clearly. She forgot to lock her door, and I accidentally walked into the wrong place. I swear on my honor, nothing happened between us. I just slept on the floor last night. Look at the dust all over my back. How could this have happened on a bed?" Meanwhile, Kira Jiyu was sobbing uncontrollably. Suddenly, she threw herself against the wall and screamed, "I don't want to live anymore." Just an inch away from the wall, she was stopped by the sharp-eyed villager. "Comrade Jiyu, what are you doing? Don't be rash." Kira Jiyu sobbed, "I've wronged Bo. How can I face anyone now? How can I still be his wife? Let me go, I want to die." The village chief slapped his thigh and pleaded earnestly, "It's not that serious, not that serious. Boshan, say something." In the crowd, the young man's tall figure swayed slightly, his face pale. "Kira, I don't blame you, it's not your fault, I will still marry you." But Kira Jiyu wouldn't relent. She refused to accept such an outcome. "I don't care, the fact is, so many people saw it. I'm no longer pure, I can't let you suffer by marrying me. I'd rather die than have you endure people pointing fingers at you for taking me as your wife." With that, she made another attempt to dash against the wall. After several tries, blood finally appeared on her forehead. An elderly villager stepped forward to take charge of the situation, saying, "After such an incident, even if it was an accident, Xiao Jiyu can't possibly marry Shenbo with this kind of reputation. To be honest, you two simply aren't meant to be. It would be better to call off the engagement now. If Xie Wenhua is willing to take responsibility for Xiao Jiyu, this could still turn into a happy outcome." Xie Wenhua quickly responded, "I will. Of course I will take responsibility for Comrade Jiyu, consider it making amends for my mistake. I promise to treat her well." Kira Jiyu was still sobbing, but she had stopped trying to take her own life. All eyes turned to Bo Shen, waiting for his nod of approval. Shenbo looked at Kira Jiyu as if, the moment he denied her, she would immediately throw herself against the wall to harm herself again. She kept saying she didn't want to marry him to avoid being gossiped about. But was that really the truth? Seeing his silence, Kira Jiyu cried out again, mustering all her strength to throw herself at the wall, while everyone scrambled to stop her. "Comrade Shen, just agree. Do you really want to see Comrade Jiyu die here?" "Yes, she's even willing to die to prove her innocence. It's clear she's not fooling around with relationships. Just let her go. If she really ends up marrying you, how will others see her? She might as well marry team leader Xie Wenhua." Bo Shen's handsome face was drained of color, his eyes dull and filled with despair. Why, even after being reborn, could he still not achieve a happy ending with Kira Jiyu? Amid the storm of persuasion from the crowd, the young man finally nodded with great difficulty. Kira Gu's heart instantly relaxed. She exchanged a glance with Xie Wenhua, both their eyes brimming with satisfaction. Having just witnessed this grand spectacle, I was about to head home, but suddenly, Jiyu Xiaoqin grabbed my wrist. She exclaimed loudly, "Willa, now that Brother Shen is all alone, you can finally pursue him." Instantly, all eyes turned toward me. Well, I was wondering why Jiyu Xiaoqin insisted on dragging me here to watch the commotion. Turns out she was setting me up all along. Afraid that Shenbo might continue pestering Kira Jiyu after breaking off the engagement, she decided to expose my secret crush on Shenbo in public. Binding us together, I forcefully shook off her hand and warned, "Jiyu Xiaoqin, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want." Jiyu Xiaoqin raised her voice and shouted, "How am I lying? Didn't you say before that you liked Brother Shen but didn't dare pursue him because he had a fiancé? You even wrote him a love letter." "I've seen it." I let out a cold laugh. Now it was my turn to grip her hand tightly. "You say I wrote him a love letter? Huh, fine. Let's all go search my house. If you can't find it, that means you're slandering me. And I'll go to the town police to sue you for ruining my reputation." At my insistence, everyone went to my house again, in front of everyone. We turned the place upside down but still couldn't find the love letter Jiyu Xiaoqin had mentioned. Seeing me actually packing my things and preparing to drag her to the town to report to the police, the village chief and a few villagers quickly stopped me, forcing Jiyu Xiaoqin to bow her head and apologize to me. Jiyu Xiaoqin had no choice but to blush and say sorry to me over a dozen times. I stopped what I was doing and added, "Since everyone is here today, regarding the incident where I was slandered about having an improper relationship with Comrade Shen after falling into the water last time, I think it's necessary for me to say something." With a clear conscience and a spotless expression, I declared boldly, "I, Willa Ji, have absolutely no feelings whatsoever for Shenbo. And I have never once thought about marrying him. If anyone dares to spread rumors about us again in the future, I will definitely report it to the police and fight with my life to clear my name. I'm putting my words here today. Even if I remain unmarried for the rest of my life and become a nun, I will never marry him. Otherwise, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." In the crowd, Bo Shen turned pale, looking at me in disbelief. He murmured, "How? How could you say such things?" I couldn't be bothered to watch his pitiful display. After shooing everyone out, I slammed the door shut with a bang. The world was finally quiet again. Perhaps due to the blow he suffered, Shenbo fell seriously ill for several days and hadn't been seen in the village for a long time. Instead, the village chief approached me again. "That matter you mentioned last time. We've made some progress. The higher-ups say your request is quite unusual, but not impossible to fulfill. However, if you want to leave here, the only option is the northwest region. The conditions there are harsher, with strong winds and sandstorms, much tougher than here. As a young woman, I'm afraid you might not be able to endure it." I eagerly nodded without hesitation. "Chief, I'm willing to go. As long as I can leave this place, anything is negotiable. In a few more years, the college entrance exams will be reinstated, and these educated youths will gradually return to the cities. Compared to the visible hope ahead, what do these hardships and exhaustion matter? All right, then pack your things. Once the notice comes through, I'll arrange a car to take you away." On the eve of my departure, I called Jiyu Xiaoqin out to meet. "It's about time we settled some old scores." Jiyu Xiaoqin shrank back when she saw me. What did you call me here for? I already apologized to you last time. What more do you want?" I smiled at her. "Xiaoqin, don't be like that. I'm not that petty. I just noticed we've grown distant lately and wanted to make up with you. I specially went to town to buy you a pair of earrings as an apology. Come and get them." I waved the earrings in my hand, and sure enough, Jiyu Xiaoqin's eyes lit up. As soon as she got close to me, I kicked her into the river. I always wondered where that sudden force came from that pushed me into the river when I was being chased by a dog. Turns out it was her doing. "Willa Ji, you're crazy. I'm going to tell the village chief." I looked down at her disdainfully as she floundered in the water. "Go ahead. Last time I didn't even officially report you to the town authorities. We can settle old scores together. No one saw me push you, but the whole village witnessed you framing me." Jiyu Xiaoqin, if you don't want others to know, don't do it in the first place. I know all about the dirty deeds you and your cousin have done. If you dare mess with me again, I'll expose everything and ruin her chance to marry Xie Wenhua. I'll fight you to the bitter end. Did you really think I, Willa Ji, am so easy to bully? If I don't teach you a lesson, you'll just keep pushing your luck, won't you?" Jiyu Xiaoqin trembled in the water, meeting my icy gaze, and only then began to feel fear. It was then that she realized the water wasn't deep. Standing firm, it only reached her chest. Though no longer in mortal danger, her heart still pounded with lingering fear. "I was wrong, Willa. Please let me go. I swear I won't tell anyone you pushed me today. And please, don't interfere with my cousin marrying team leader Xie. Otherwise, my father will beat me to death." Back home, I continued packing my luggage. I can't do anything to Kira Jiyu right now. She's under Xie Wenhua's protection. And if I confront her directly, I'll only end up worse off. But once she marries into the Xie family, it won't be long before they start dabbling in shady businesses to make money. When that time comes, I'll make sure to send an anonymous tip in time. shattering her dream of becoming a wealthy lady and sending her crashing down from the clouds, leaving her in utter misery. The village chief said a car will be waiting for me in town at 3 p.m. So I need to catch the ox cart to the village entrance first. By noon, I had already packed my things and was ready to leave. Who would have thought that upon opening the door, I'd see Boshan standing at my doorstep. A serious illness had left him much thinner, and it was clear he looked quite haggard. Noticing my luggage, his pupils contracted. "Where are you going?" I immediately had a bad feeling. If I told the truth, leaving might not be so easy, after all. He never got to marry Kira Gu in this lifetime, and it's very likely he'd continue to take his anger out on me. There's no way he'd let me leave so easily. So I told a lie. An elder in my family is seriously ill, and I want to go home to visit for a while. I'll be back in a month. Shunbo breathed a sigh of relief. Just moments ago, he suddenly realized he couldn't bear the thought of Willa G leaving. Fortunately, she was just going home to visit her family. After a moment of silence, Boshan suddenly lowered his head and muttered gloomily, "I'm sorry, I misunderstood you earlier. You really didn't intend to ruin my engagement with Kira Gu. I said harsh words to you at the time and even used force to drag you to the broadcasting station for an explanation. You must hate me to death, Willa." I impatiently interrupted him. "What exactly are you trying to say, Shunbo? Do you think I care about your apology, in this lifetime? I just want to stay as far away from you as possible. I won't bother you, and I ask that you don't bother me either. Let's each go our separate ways." Shunbo seemed utterly devastated, his body swaying unsteadily. "How can you be so heartless? We were husband and wife after all. Do you really have no affection left for me at all?" After speaking, he looked at me with hopeful eyes. Looking at his expression, I couldn't help but find it amusing. It seemed he had forgotten how he once treated me. And I didn't mind reminding him. "Affection? Did you ever show me even a shred of affection? Shunbo, have you forgotten how you humiliated me in the past? You married me for your reputation, yet never treated me well. You kept me at home like a decorative piece, indifferent day after day for 10 years. Did it ever occur to you that I'm also human? And my heart can ache too. Have you forgotten how you used hurtful words to wound me? You accused me of scheming to marry you, called me shameless, compared me to Kira Gu, and said I wasn't even worthy of her little finger. You trampled me into the dirt. Did you ever think of the affection you spoke of then? To get back at me, you gave the job that should have been mine to Kira Gu, forcing me into menial labor in an ordinary workshop. You were my husband, yet you showed kindness to everyone but me. Why didn't you talk about affection then?" As I spoke sentence after sentence, tears fell without me realizing. The grievances of those decades, even after rebirth, remain etched in my heart, impossible to erase. But how can these pains ever be fully described in words? After Kira Gu divorced and came looking for you, during that time, I drafted divorce papers 3 times, but you refused each time, saying you were up for a promotion and afraid it would hurt your career. You didn't love me, yet you trapped me, even if I once accidentally tore you and Kira Gu apart. When I tried to give you your freedom back, you wouldn't let me go. Boshan, do you know how much I hate you? As I spoke, it was as if I saw again the woman from my past life, shattered by the cold indifference of marriage. For decades, I poured all my sincerity into warming your heart, but I never could. So I'm tired now. I just want to take care of myself. Once you said your biggest regret was saving me from the river, I want to say the same. I regret ever liking you, having unrealistic fantasies about you, and being so bewitched that I agreed to your proposal. A lifetime of sincerity was wasted on the wrong person. Fortunately, we've both been reborn, so can we stop tormenting each other, let each other go and live our lives well, with your qualities? You'll surely find someone better in the future. I'll stay far away from you too. You marry your man, I'll marry my woman. No more ties between us. I originally thought that by retreating, I could coexist peacefully with Boshan, but it seems like he's been cursed. The young man shook his head, the corners of his eyes reddening. He looked at me with guilt and bared his heart. Willa, whether you believe it or not, after living a second life, I feel like I can see my own heart more clearly. My feelings for Kira Gu were just regrets from my past life. When she wanted to break off the engagement, I only felt a little uncomfortable. But the moment I heard you cutting ties with me, saying you'd rather become a nun than marry me, it felt like a knife stabbing through my heart. I know I've done many wrong things in the past and hurt you deeply, but it doesn't matter, since we've both been reborn. I believe we can still mend our relationship. This is the second chance heaven has given us. From now on, I'll treat you twice as well to make up for the mistakes of my past life. If you still resent me now, then I'll just have to pursue you all over again, okay? Hearing these words, I really wanted to vomit, but I couldn't show it. I turned my head and pretended to consider it, saying, who knows if what you're saying is true. I still need to think about it. Boshan thought there was still room for reconciliation, and a spark of hope lit up in his eyes. He immediately beamed with joy. All right, you can test me all you want. I have no ulterior motives toward you. Willa, let me walk you to the village entrance to catch the cart. Come back soon. Or I'll miss you. He carried my luggage and personally escorted me to the ox cart at the village entrance. As the cart jolted into motion, the young man stood in place, waving at me. A smile lingered at the corners of his lips, as if anticipating my return not long from now. I gave him one last smile. Boshan, in this lifetime, we shall never meet again. Willa G was lying to him. She never came back. After a period of anxious waiting, Boshan learned of her whereabouts from the village chief. At that moment, it felt as if he had been punched, leaving him stunned and unable to react. Willa G, how could you be so heartless? We had agreed to start over. How could you just leave him behind like this? He knew he had hurt her many times, yet why wouldn't she give him even a single chance to make amends? Boshan didn't want to give up. He hoped that after returning to the city and achieving something, he could once again seek Willa G's forgiveness, but fate had other plans. Not long after Xie Wenhua and Kira Jiyu got married, they were brought down by an anonymous letter of accusation, bringing disaster upon the entire family. Every misdeed they had committed, no matter how small, was exposed under the sunlight. Only then did Boshan realize that Kira Jiyu had schemed so many underhanded tricks behind his back just to kick him aside and climb the social ladder. How laughable that in his past life, he had clung to old affections, choosing to betray his own wife while shielding and supporting Kira Jiyu for a lifetime. He was truly the biggest joke of all. Later, it was unclear where Xie Wenhua heard it, but their family being reported was said to be Boshan's revenge for the stolen wife, having lost everything, with nothing left to lose. He led a group of people and crippled Boshan. He was left permanently disabled, never able to achieve the accomplishments of his past life. Years later, a destitute Boshan saw news of Willa G being honored. After she went to the Northwest to contribute to its development that year, she persisted in her studies, advancing from university to a Ph.D. Together with her team, she turned a barren land into an oasis, giving new color to the yellow sand. Her remarkable contributions earned her national recognition. She truly lived as a new version of herself. While he was doomed to eternal damnation, he glanced around the tiny rented apartment, realizing that for the rest of his life, he would be dragging his broken body through unseen corners, slowly waiting for death, never to meet her again in this life or the next. Perhaps this was heaven's punishment for him. His rebirth wasn't meant to make amends, but to witness with his own eyes how the wife he had hurt in his previous life broke free from the mire and started anew. Live the life that was meant for you in your past existence.